Anxiety. Almost every American my age or under has it. It cripples us. It never leaves us. It will most likely get worse over time. So let's try to find ways to cope with it. Now, I usually don't read books by stupid baby boomers, like old baby boomers, but this one is an exception. I hear nothing but good things about Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Apparently, it has a lot to do with the art of Stoicism or the philosophy of Stoicism, and how to handle just inner stress or just stress in general in many day-to-day scenarios. Well, yeah, without further, this doesn't need any introduction. Marcus Aurelius is one of the greatest philosophers to live. Started a whole movement on YouTube. If you just look up Stoicism, I'm sure you can find some TED Talks. This guy's a badass. I respect him. I am not a fan of classic philosophy. I usually don't like old written English or old written stuff because it just gets outdated over time. I'm more of a modern philosophy sort of guy, or just a modern literature sort of guy. But my friends who aren't big fans of like the old classics tend to love this one or grip onto this one. So let's check it out. There are 12 short books into this. And so I will read 4 books, talk about the first act, then the next 4, the second act, and the last 4, and do a final comprehensive review on it, or just reaction to it. Because I doubt I could say anything that hasn't been said about this, because, Jesus, this book's really popular. Okay, with that said, let's go! Here are some highlighted quotes from the first 4 books of Meditations. Strength of character, and endurance or sobriety as the case may be, signifies the man of full and indomitable spirit, as was shown by Maximus in his illness. Even if you were destined to live 3,000 years, or 10 times that long, nevertheless remember that no one loses any life other than the one he lives, or lives any life other than the one he loses. It follows that the longest and shortest lives are brought to the same state. The present moment is equal for all, so what is passing is equal also. The loss therefore turns out to be the merest fragment of time. No one can lose either the past or the future. How could anyone be deprived of what he does not possess? If you admit no distraction, but keep your own divinity pure and standing strong, as if you had to surrender it right now, then you will lead a good life, and nobody is able to stop you. Love the art which you have learnt, and take comfort in it. Go through the remainder of your life in sincere commitment of all your being to the gods, and never making yourself tyrant or slave to any man. Ugh! What up? Let me just fix this mic real quick. Hopefully it won't shake all this time. Won't shake too much. I'm moving to the couch because it's more comfy here than my gaming chair. Although I apparently shouldn't chase so much of earthly pleasure. So maybe my comfort shouldn't be the priority. Anyways, let's talk about the first 4 books. Oh my god, there is so much wisdom in here, dog. I'm amazed that people in Marcus Aurelius' time and the ancient times still dealt with the same struggle for pleasure and happiness in a very similar way to us, or humans today, in the sense that we always strive for wanting more material wealth, or more fame, or more happiness, but in reality, none of that will ever make us more happy, so I mean, facts. Nothing but, well, I'm not gonna say nothing but facts. I did run across a few slightly problematic lines, but I'll talk about that later. Overall, dude, you gotta pick this up, honestly. If you have anxiety, this would be a good go-to. I can already tell you that this would be a good go-to. I don't even need to finish the second third. Don't watch a video summary of it, or do if you want to get interested into the art of Stoicism, but there is no way in hell an 8-minute video can wrap this up. Only, this is a short book. I'm listening to an audiobook of it on YouTube by Vox Stoika. It's some independent audio book dude doing audiobooks on works of Stoicism. Yeah, he's a good dude. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. Marcus Aurelius, you're brilliant, man. Great stuff. Great stuff already. Let's finish up the second act. Here's some quotes from Book 5 to Book 8. I am made up of the casual and the material. Neither of these will disappear into nothing, just as neither came to be out of nothing. So every part of me will be assigned its changed place in some part of the universe, and that will change again into another part of the universe, and so on to infinity. Vanity is the greatest seducer of reason. When you are most convinced that your work is important, that is when you are most under its spell. I have only one anxiety,
that I myself should not do something which the human constitution does not intend, or does not intend in this way or at this time. Soon you will have forgotten all things. Soon all things will have forgotten you. He who fears death fears either unconsciousness or another sort of unconsciousness. Now if you will no longer be conscious, you will not be conscious either of anything bad. If you are to take on a different consciousness, you will be a different being, and life will not cease.
Alright, I just finished book 8 of 12, 2/3 of the way done, and man, it's a lot. I can see why it's a lot of my friends' favorite work of nonfiction, because even though I'm finishing this only in a day, this book can clearly be examined for like decades, even centuries, hence why we're still reading it to this day. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius is a brilliant dude and one of the few Western philosophers that I vibe with, actually. So even though there's a ton of content that I just read and a ton of ways to analyze this book, I feel like there are similar archetypes that Marcus Aurelius keeps coming back to in all of these books, which are structures of the philosophy of Stoicism. So one of the facets of meditations would be to learn how to discipline yourself mentally and learn mental self-control and emotional regulation. These feelings that you're feeling will happen at any time. You can't predict the waves, but you can be a rock to stand your ground. Pain is going to happen to you, suffering is going to happen to you, but how you interpret it is up to your own decision. I agree with that most of the time. Now the second facet of meditations, and probably the biggest facet of meditations, is learning to come to terms with one's own mortality and just embracing it as another transition into this mere fleeting existence that we have already. There was life before us, we experienced the oblivion then, it's life after us, we're gonna experience the oblivion then. Everyone we love, everything we know will all be forgotten, but who really cares, man? We got this time, let's make the best of it. I got this mic, I got this gaming chair, I'm gonna enjoy this mic, I'm gonna enjoy this gaming chair. And a third big facet of this book is to learn to expect negativity from others, because life is unpredictable, people are unpredictable, and learning how to deal with it and not be too uncivil. I don't resonate with this entirely, although it's nice to be peaceful. There are times where you need to draw the line, in my opinion, and being too civil at all moments will just turn you into a centrist that will pretty much stand for nothing. On a personal level, if you learn to be civil with discivil people, then that's a sign of maturity, that's a sign of growth. I like that. And the last facet is basically just a guide to external and internal productivity. You'll find many ways to just inspire yourself or control yourself to get back into doing what you want to do, find a passion in what you want to do, and do it steadily, consistently, and at a good pace, just because you want to, because life's great like that. Alright, with that said, I'm going to finish the last act and then give you my overall thoughts. Alright, going to finish this book now.
Here are some quotes from the last act of Meditations. Gentleness is given as the antidote to cruelty, and other qualities to meet other offenses. In general, you can always re-educate one who has lost his way, and anyone who does wrong has missed his proper aim and gone astray. The time you have left is short. Live it as if you were on a mountain. Here or there makes no difference. If wherever you live you take the world as your city, let men see. Let them observe a true man living in accordance with nature. If they cannot bear him, let them kill him. A better fate than a life like theirs. Have I done something for the common good? Then I too have benefited. Have this thought always ready to hand, and no stopping. But I have not played my 5 acts, only 3. True, but in life 3 acts can be the whole play. Completion is determined by your dissolution. You have no part in either causation.
Wow. This was great. A lot of thoughts right now. Let me transition to the book review. Book review. Alright, I'm back. I'm a little relaxed. Got my raspberry tea. I got my pros and cons list right here. Let's talk about meditations. My mind is still very worked up over it. I can promise you that no video summary on YouTube can do this book justice. You can spend hours just dissecting the first 2 pages if you really want to. Every single page I turn to has some highlights on it, so when it comes to content, this is packed with it. And not only is it very deep, it is super simple to read. There are 2 versions of this book that I actually engaged in. The audiobook that I was listening to on YouTube was actually a different translation from this copy right here. You can find the 19th century translation on YouTube, and that one's a little more complex. To put it simply, the Gregory Hayes translation has like a lot of dost thou diest, prepositional phrase, verb I don't remember, and this one is written like pretty much any book during the 1900s. Not too hard to grasp. If you read a lot of modern literature, you might prefer this. If you like the old traditional English back then, you might prefer the Gregory Hayes translation. I personally prefer the Martin Hammond translation, but they're both great. They're both freaking great. I would say the Gregory Hayes translation is like the King James version of the Bible, and this is like the English Standard Version or the NIV version of the Bible. Okay, so the next pro is that this book is very helpful. I can't think of anyone I wouldn't recommend it to. If anyone is relatively interested in checking this out, I would say absolutely check it out. I'm not gonna say it completely fixes my anxiety, but it helps me stay a little more in control of my emotions. I'm a little more metacognitive about my feelings now and my emotions now, and I can get a good grasp of controlling it whenever I want to, thanks to this book. I also don't give a shit about death anymore. Like, legitimately, if I die tomorrow, I will endure that process more peacefully now that I have read this book. Thank God I read this book during the coronavirus. Let's see if it will happen soon. But on the real, it helped me come at peace, it did calm me down, and I am meditating more. I know that's not what the book really intention. They only had like 2 lines about that. I'm more conscious of my thoughts, and I feel like I can be more productive and focus better, and I am comfortable with mortality. Well, that's nice. All that done in a day. It's pretty good. And the last pro, and so many other pros, is that it's very inspirational. It can possibly change your life if you read this. I wouldn't say it necessarily changed my life completely, but I walked away as a different person when I closed this book. Let's see if it will be permanent or not. Maybe I need to read it again. I'm 100% going to read it again. There's a reason this book is popular thousands of years later. You know, the whole Reddit pages for it. People study each paragraph intensively. I can't tell you everything about this book. No 10 to 20 minute video can tell you everything about this book. Just pick it up yourself and give it a shot. It's literally like a Bible for the Stoics. That's it for the pros. Now let me go to the cons, because while I do agree with the majority of Stoicism, I don't believe it's perfect. And here are just a few reasons why. First, when it comes to just the way in which the book is written, it's a little disorganized, in the sense that it's broken up into 12 books, but if you asked me what the difference between book 4 and book 7 was, I couldn't tell you the difference. A lot of these 12 books tend to repeat itself and revolve around the same themes that I've talked about a lot. And they tend to do it in a decently flowy way. It wasn't a drag when I read it, but I didn't know what I was going to get into and when I jumped into the chapter after. You have to take this thing paragraph by paragraph, and in a way that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, if you want to just read this for like 5 minutes or even 1 minute, just read one page of some paragraphs, you can take some good moral lessons from it and go on about your day. If you're quick on time, this is great. I just wouldn't advise binge reading this. This is not a binge reading book. Now this is just a minor thing, but I've noticed that there are a few remarks in this book where he compares the mannerisms of killers and murderers and degenerates to women and blacks. And yeah, I know this was thousands of years ago. I know we weren't people. I know I wasn't a real person. And I know women weren't real people back then. They didn't exist. But at the end of the day, that will always be a turnoff for me, and I will never give a perfect rating to a book that has any sort of implications. No, I didn't hold any of this against the author at the time, but if you're ever curious as to why all these philosophers are just white men, maybe those sections can show you why not many women or people of color are so interested in philosophy. So just a little sexism and racism, but I'm used to it, no big deal. Now let's talk about the major cons that I have with Stoicism in general and something that he preaches in Meditations. I completely agree that it's good to be in control of your emotions and be completely metacognitive about feelings that pass in you, but if you chase after that too much, then that may yield to a dangerous path of just mental suppression. If you look at Stoicism and stoic characters are a popular type of character that you can find in movies and TV shows, etc. Here are some examples of stoic characters. As you can see, some are good and some are evil. If you bottle up these emotions inside and don't know how to channel it properly, it can yield to pent-up maliciousness. So, when stoicism goes to that much of an extreme, I don't really mess with it. And another big con that I did have in this book is, I believe book 11 talked about it. It had like 9 or 10 rules on how to mend relationships with evil people and to be friends with your enemy, etc., etc. But it sometimes came across to me as mending back a toxic relationship. And this is a topic that is recurring a lot in meditations, to mend friends with enemies or look at the bad person and see him through your perspective and fix the situation. Don't be the person to end a relationship or burn a bridge. While that is true most of the time, we're getting to an age where toxic relationships are apparent and inevitable. Maybe it is not the best to put up with every single relationship, because toxic relationships can definitely have a very negative effect on your mental health. I remember there was one quote in here, let me see if I can find it, that I strongly disagreed with. Here's a quote that I disagreed with, and it's actually quite poetic. "A branch cut from its neighboring branch is necessarily cut away from the whole tree. In the same way, a human being severed from just one other human has dropped from the whole community. Now the branch is cut off by someone else. But a man separates himself from his neighbor by his own hatred or rejection, not realizing that he has thereby severed himself from the wider society of fellow citizens." So my inquisition to this analogy is simply, what if this person that you're cutting off is friends with a lot of people that you like? Should you necessarily be ashamed that you're standing up for your morals or for your own dignity to not be with somebody that causes you harm? I am afraid that this might lead someone down a path to befriend enemies to the point where you can excuse their behavior, because life's so short and everyone's gonna die anyways. I'm never gonna be friends with a murderer. Sorry, Marcus. Those are just some nitpicks of the majority of Stoicism. Personally, I agree with about 90% of Stoicism. So overall, how do I feel about Meditations? Freaking great book, man. Amazing book. I'm so gonna read this soon, again, on my own time. I'm gonna read it leisurely later, and maybe I'll study it a little more. Until then, I really advise you guys to check this out. I will put links to both translations in the description below. Hopefully some audiobooks can help. Just once again, it's philosophy, super dense. I needed a little more time with it. I just want to spend more time examining it. If I were to give my first reading of Meditations a grade, I'd give it a B+. Alright, I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you enjoyed the production of this video, feel free to give it a like. I'd appreciate it. If you have any requests on what I should read next, comment below and I'll see if I can get to it as soon as possible. And if you want to be updated on these book reviews, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Alright guys, I'll see you with another video very soon.